25 miles from my house on the North Shore of Chicago is the neighborhood of Little Village where my friend Marisol lives. Beginning in December of 2007, I began spending a lot of time in Little Village helping Marisol document what is happening there. Little Village is a thriving and expanding immigrant community on the southwest side of Chicago, comprised mostly of recent immigrants from Mexico. Of the 90,000 people who live in Little Village, over half of the residents are under the age of 21. Making it the youngest community in Chicago. It is also one of the poorest. Little Village has 4.6 persons per household, the highest number in the city, with a median household income of $21,540. In fact, 45% of the population lives 200% below the poverty level. Voter registration is also the lowest in the city. Many of the immigrant families who live in Little Village began their journey to the U.S. in the town of Mexicali, Mexico, a border town of nearly 1 million people where migration and seasonal labor produce a constant in and out flow of immigrants to the U.S. or into Mexico. Beginning in the early 90s and aided by NAFTA, thousands of industries moved out of the U.S. to Mexico, where environmental standards are less stringent and unions are weak. The communities of Mexicali and Little Village share a common problem. They are each home to multiple toxic industrial facilities that are creating a rapidly deteriorating environment and an air pollution crisis that is creating a public health nightmare for their residents. Professor Daniel Faber explains this as a problem rooted in environmental racism.
Environmental racism is a process by which communities of color are systematically targeted by both the state and industry for the siting of ecologically hazardous toxic waste sites and industrial facilities, what we call ecological sacrifice zones.
Federal policies such as the Cap and Trade Program, the grandfathering clause in the 1977 Clean Air Act, and the energy deregulation of the standards in California means that the politically disenfranchised, low-income, and minority communities are left bearing the brunt of the environmental effects. For example, 4 of Chicago's 10 dirtiest diesel truck corridors pass through Little Village. A city waste transfer station takes in 500 trucks and 1,500 tons of garbage 16 hours a day. Little Village is home to the city's largest steel drum recycling plant, the largest plastics recycler, and the largest and most contaminated piece of land on the city's southwest side, the 24-acre US EPA Superfund Cellotech site. The Superfund site is filled with benzopyrene, one of the most carcinogenic polyaromatic hydrocarbons known to exist. By far, the worst polluting industry in Little Village comes from not one, but 2 coal-burning power plants, Crawford and Fisk, both owned by Midwest Generation, a subsidiary of Edison International. The Crawford and Fisk power plants are the 2 largest sources of PM10, particulate-forming air pollution in Chicago.
We used to think that the sulfur dioxide, the nitrous oxide, the soot that comes out of the power plant only could trigger existing asthma, but there's more and more evidence the last decade that they can actually cause asthma.
US EPA air pollution data shows that the Little Village zip code has the 2nd worst air quality in the 8-county region of Chicago. In fact, 9 out of 10 Latinos living in Chicago are breathing air that violates federal pollution standards. Back in the Mexicali Valley, 90% of the area's 80 maquiladoras are using toxic materials that are generating a substantial amount of hazardous waste. Despite the fact that air quality was already declining in the region, in 2003, 2 new power plants began operations outside of Mexicali. These natural gas-fired plants emit pollutants that the Southwest Center for Environmental Research and Policy believes are responsible for the accelerated growth of PM10 and the spiraling rates of asthma in the region. Both Imperial Valley and Mexicali have the highest child asthma rates for their respective states of California and Baja California. While the people of Mexicali and Little Village bear disproportionate impact of public health effects brought about by these power plants, they receive few of its benefits. 66% of the energy generated at Sempra is exported to the U.S. through a pipeline that feeds Los Angeles, San Diego, and Northern California.
Specifically in Little Village, the Crawford plant does not supply any electricity to the city of Chicago, much less the state of Illinois.
There's a total of about 72 jobs inside the Crawford plant. Almost all those jobs are basically white males from the suburbs.
Money talks, poverty walks. But you know and I know it wouldn't be in the mayor's neighborhood. You know it wouldn't be in the governor's neighborhood. They wouldn't accept it for their children growing up in this type of environment.
46 of the 50 top air polluters in the U.S. are power plants, and millions of people live within a 30-mile radius of a power plant, including me and my family. This isn't just Little Village's problem or Mexicali's problem. It is a worldwide crisis that not only involves the environment, but fundamental human rights. I believe that one of our strongest hopes lies with the environmental justice movement. Pollution knows no borders. It needs no passport. It affects everyone. We as global citizens must be willing to cross the borders of race, class, and country to fight for environmental justice and a greener tomorrow.